49-yard line. Shotgun this time for Burrow. Looking left, he's being attacked from behind. He's sacked again as Karlaftis gets the sack. The Chiefs are passing these sacks around like Skittles.
That was part of a strong finish to the season for rookie edge rusher George Karlaftis in 2022. He had 6.5 sacks over his final 10 games, but could the Chiefs add to their pass rush with another edge rusher in the upcoming draft? For more on that topic, we're checking in today with Danny Kelly from The Ringer. The Ringer has some of the best NFL coverage out there, and Danny's a big part of that. Danny, what's going on, man?
Oh, not too much, just gearing up for the draft. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. This is the busy time of year for you. I mean, it's the off season for us, but things are firing up for you, right? Just 2 months until game day.
Yeah, I'm slowly making my way through. I do an NFL draft guide for The Ringer, so just slowly trying to make my way through that, getting up to like 70 players this week. So yeah, it's definitely kind of crunch time. It's so crazy how quickly this all goes.
Well, for guys like me that turn the page immediately after the Super Bowl and try to cram all of this knowledge about 300 plus prospects in a matter of months, we certainly appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're checking in with you today about edge rushers. That's what this segment's going to be all about. And before we talk about players and specifics, what's your overall take on this edge rusher class?
I actually like this class. I mean, I think it's maybe lacking the elite blue chip talent at the top outside of like Will Anderson. I think he's probably one of the best players in this class. He's my top ranked player. But outside of that, it's really deep. There's a lot of different types of players too. There's like big, heavy guys that could probably play all over the line. There's lighter guys that maybe have a little concern over their size, or their weight, but they're really athletic, really explosive. So there's just players that are they fit all types of prototypes and can play at different positions. So I think it's a very deep class, and there's going to be guys available on day two that I think are kind of come in and be starters for teams. So it's an exciting one for me. It's probably one of the better positions in this class for me.
And edge is such an umbrella term, right? Because you have guys like Nolan Smith, who ran a 4.39 40-yard dash, but he's only 238 pounds.
Yep.
And then bigger players that are pushing 280, 290, they're all technically edges. A lot of good players in this class, though, like you said. And let's start with round one. Let's say the Chiefs want to go edge at pick number 31 overall.
Yep.
Who are some names to know?
So it's always tough to know exactly who will be there, but the guy that you just mentioned, Nolan Smith, I don't know if he makes it that far, just based on the way he tested at the combine, but he's a little undersized, so it wouldn't be like the most shocking thing in the world if he was still around at the end of the first round. I think he would be a great, fit for you guys in terms of tons of explosiveness, tons of bend. I really like his ability to get really low to the ground and turn back into the pocket. Everything that you hear about him is he's an exceptional person in terms of like a leader and, just a teammate and all that stuff. So I think he'd be a great pick for you guys late in the first round. Keon White from Georgia Tech on the other end of the spectrum in terms of height, weight, length. He's a guy who came into college as a tight end and converted to defensive end and defensive tackle. He's played all over the line. He's really big, strong, athletic, twitchy. I think he's another option. And then, again, going back to the smaller guys, Will McDonald out of Iowa State is another player who I think could sneak into the first round. He is just under 240 pounds, I believe. So obviously he's on the smaller side when it comes to edge rusher and defensive end, but really twitchy, really athletic. He's got tons of explosiveness, and he's got a really good spin move. He's just very, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Brian Burns when he was coming out. Just, the flexible, athletic, explosive, but just needs to gain weight, just needs to get stronger, that kind of thing. So he's another guy I think that could really fit in that area. There's honestly a handful of guys that could go anywhere in that area. And I think they could all come in and be like starters in the league, or at least situational pass rushers on nickel downs and things like that.
Yeah, it's good news for the Chiefs if they want to go edge early on, because like you said, it seems like there's a lot of guys that could be around in that pick 25 to pick like 45 range that kind of fall in that area, and a lot of talent there. So if the Chiefs want to go edge again in the first round, they certainly will have their choice of guys. Let's say they want to pick an edge on day 2 or day 3, though. Are there some sleepers that you like in those later rounds?
Definitely. Again, I don't know exactly where these guys are going to go, but in that area, B.J. Ojulari from LSU, I think is a really interesting player. He's a brother of Azeez Ojulari, who plays for the Giants. He's got it's sort of an undersized frame, or at least he's not quite as tall as you probably want prototypically, but he's got really long arms. He can get low. He's explosive coming off the edge. Derek Hall from Auburn is another guy I like. He's not the bendiest player, but he's really explosive, really quick, twitched up lower body. Again, he has really long arms. He comes in a little bit shorter than you'd want, but he makes up for it with his length. I think he's another player that could be there. Felix Anudike Uzoma from Kansas State, I think is gaining some buzz. I comped him to Jabal Shurd. He's sort of just a brawler. He's really big, physical. He's young, so he's definitely still sort of, learning the position, but he's the type of guy that can play the run. He can come in and give you some juice off the edge. I like him a lot. And again, there's just a ton of guys here. Byron Young out of Tennessee absolutely blew up the combine. He's a little bit older. I believe he's going to be a 25-year-old rookie, so that's a little bit of a red flag. But I mean, he was one of the most athletic edge rushers in combine history. I mean, he was absolutely blowing up every test or whatever. And so he's another guy that I think with the traits that you're looking for in day two to develop into, I think at least at the very beginning, an edge rusher that can come in on nickel downs and obvious passing situations and provide some juice off the edge. Another guy that I'm actually writing up today is USC's Tuli Tuipulotu. I believe he led the nation in sacks, so he was absolutely really productive. He's not quite as athletic, but I remember watching him at the combine and going through the bag drill. He was one of the most impressive guys. He was absolutely just annihilating those bags. He's very strong, heavy-handed. He can bend. He's just a really good player. He just maybe doesn't have the elite athletic traits that you're looking for from an edge player, but I think he's a good player who could, just come in and play a number of roles for you. So again, not to beat a dead horse, but there's just a lot of guys in that area that I think could contribute early on, and that's another reason I like this class so much. I could go through probably like 5 more guys, but that's kind of the depth, that you see in this class.
Yeah, well, that's very exciting, I think, for Chiefs fans when you can look at the bevy of picks that Kansas City has later in the draft, and maybe a prospect isn't perfect that you get in the 4th or 5th round, but if they have a few traits that are impossible to teach, like their athleticism or their size, get them in the system, get them with Coach Spagnuolo, get them with Coach Cullen, and just see what can happen. We saw that with Mike Dana several years ago out of the University of Michigan. He's been a solid contributor along this defensive front. And with Frank Clark no longer in Kansas City, could make a lot of sense for the Chiefs to add an edge rusher either early on or maybe even later, considering all the depth that's in this class. Danny, awesome stuff, man. Really appreciate your time.
Sure, anytime. Appreciate it.